success, or happiness? Why should we have to choose? Today's guest built a £100 million company, and from the outside, Darren Ryemill had it all: success, recognition, and wealth. But at the height of it, he hit rock bottom: a painful divorce, mental health struggles, and the crushing realization that his successes alone did not make him happy. It forced him to completely reassess everything. Instead of giving up, though, Darren did something unusual. He scored every part of his life, from fun to friendships, and slowly rebuilt a version of happiness that actually worked for him. That method is now helping teams and companies across the world through his wellbeing platform, Hapstar. And in today's episode, he shares how burnout cracked his identity wide open, why success with no joy is a dead end, and what it really takes to feel good again without throwing your ambitions away. Let's dive in. A big thank you to Avery for sponsoring this episode. Before we begin, a quick content warning. Although not graphic, this episode includes mentions of suicide. Darren, welcome to Realistic Happiness Podcast.
Hi, Daisy.
Was there a specific moment in your life that made you rethink the idea of success?
Yeah, well, I think you constantly are rethinking everything, right, as you go through life. I think, both positively and negatively. I can remember going to university the first time and thinking that what I thought were successful A-level grades were not successful A-level grades, when everyone around me seemed much cleverer and much more, cleverer word? Much more clever. And there we are, failed the test again. And so you're constantly redefining what is success. And it's always so comparable because, as humans, we look at other people and it's hard to think of success unless you have something that, you can hang it on or compare it against. At certain points, you want different things, don't you? So there's times when you want to get on that career bandwagon and you get progression. There's times when you want money. There's times when you want, to have a great family. There's times when you want friendships and all of these things. And so depending on what your needs are at the time, I think you kind of constantly in review.
Yeah, and I think that's a really healthy way to look at life because we try and do everything at once, right? Like we want to be successful, married, have kids, buy the house, buy the car or Ferrari, whatever you can afford. And when you get there, sometimes none of those things are what you wanted. That's not going to achieve happiness or success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, everyone knows that, nobody goes, oh, well, when I bought my house, then my life was complete and I was happy. Or when I got married, then well, maybe some people feel it, but sadly I didn't. But they just contribute. They contribute to your overall happiness, like all of these things. Yeah.
Yeah, because a discussion we've had previously, you mentioned about your story about becoming successful and then wealthy, everything that people dreamed of. And then you had a moment where you just realized, shit, I'm not happy. What am I going to do?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, life from a business perspective for me was really good. Going back to sort of like 2015, 2016, 2017, that sort of period, the business was going like really well. We were growing, had a really great business with some great people in it. And we got to a point where we were sort of turning over 100 million and we were really on the sort of crest of a wave. I personally had sort of won some awards, which were, sort of like industry sort of like awards, and some that like sort of went outside of the industry, like the Sunday Times Best Leader. Won that a couple of times. I was named Birmingham University Alumnus of the Year, which I was like super proud of. You look at all the people that have been to Birmingham University, there's Nobel Prize winners, there's heads of state, there's so many like phenomenal people. And, in 2017, they must have been really short of people because they decided they wanted to give me an award, which was wonderful. But look, so I was experiencing lots of really positives. And, I sadly, really sadly, sort of like went through a divorce. And, it's something completely sort of like not wanted, not expected, outside of the realms of business. And it hit me really hard, like really, really hard. And, you start doubting everything about yourself. You're like, well, I say you do. I started doubting, like, I'm not a good person. How can I have done this? How could I have upset, my wife? How can I not have been the constant, consistent figure that, I want my children to have as their dad? and it really hurt me, you know, and it hurt more because it was on me, you know. So yeah, so I was really struggling for a period of time with mental health. Went to the doctor, and you know, I was really low, and I sort of said, I never go to the doctor. I think I've been to the doctor maybe 2 or 3 times in my entire life, you know. So and I went to the doctor. I said, look, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm feeling this. And he was like, look, you're suffering from severe stress, anxiety, depression. And as wonderful as that sounds, it wasn't very good, you know. So I was like, okay, this is not great. They were very much, the doctor was very much right. I want to prescribe you medicine. I want to get you on this that can help you. And I was not keen on that. You know, I'm personality type. I was more, I just didn't think that was going to help me. You know, I'd seen sort of some family members, some friends, people around me sort of like go on to sort of like antidepressants and things like that. And in all cases, I never thought, wow, they seem much more fresher or a better version of themselves. They often seemed, you know, I unfairly, you know, sort of sometimes liken it to like sort of like a zombified version of themselves, you know, like sort of sadly just a bit more withdrawn, a bit more not quite there, not quite fully engaged, you know. And I was like, look, that's not a path that I want to go down. You know, I can remember the doctor sort of saying to me at the time, you know, do you ever think about killing yourself? And I was like, yeah, all the time, like all the time. I said, like, you know, it's not like he's like, what, like daily, weekly? I was like, if it's not 100 times a day, I couldn't tell you. I said, literally, that's the only thing I think about. And you know, ultimately, I was, you know, very sure that I didn't want to die. You know, I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to end it. You know, I had amazing kids. I had a lot of really positive things in my life, a lot to live for. I just wanted this pain to stop. You know, this like kind of self-hate, this kind of well, just just I didn't like myself. It's basically the best way to put it. You know, all because of like looking back, I sort of like, you know, my behaviours, like how I'd sort of felt like I'd let the family down or whatever. But ultimately, I think I was burnt out. You know, I think that's really what had caused me. You know, I'd sort of like really lost my way. You know, I'd worked and I'd worked and I'd worked and I'd worked, and I was like, right, I'm gonna make something of myself. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna, you know, it's me against the world, kind of thing. And that was amazing. You know, it was amazing for so long until I just hit this, you know, this moment when kind of divorce derailed me and everything sort of like folded in on myself.
No, I can imagine. Wow, so sorry you felt that way. That's, yeah, I wouldn't wish that on my enemy. Like,
Yeah,
just,
it was a tough time, but look, it was a tough time, but you sort of like, you know, we all go through stuff in life. Do you know what I mean? And it's like sort of, you know, I am quite a sort of like a person. I'm a person that tends to operate, you know, in like high intensities both ways. You know, I kind of like, I'm super happy and I'm super excited and I get good results that way. And then sometimes I find it a little bit more difficult to, you know, to turn up in this sort of like mindset. But yeah, it was a long time ago now, and I've learned a lot. I've done a lot for myself to protect myself. You know, I think one of the things that, you know, lots and lots of little things, like little stories I'd have to tell myself, or things that I would correct myself if my thinking suddenly turned a little bit darker. Maybe, you know, I'd have like little almost tricks I would, or you know, pep talks or something I'd give myself, like lines that I knew would resonate with me to make me sort of, you know, just come back to a bit more of a level playing field.
yeah, like a stable
Yeah,
level instead of like being at an all-time low. You
yeah,
kind of balance yourself again.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I was working hard. I wanted to achieve, and I'm really sort of conscious that I don't want to be the guy that now says I worked really hard and no one else should work hard. You know, because I don't believe that. You know, although I burn out, and I for want of a better phrase, or you know, something that is more clear to give people. You know, I worked hard and I just reached a point where I just didn't have it in me anymore. But I would absolutely do it again. I think, the benefits and the rewards and the journey and the experience, um, it's hard to say it's worth it, but fundamentally, I wouldn't want to change it, and I think that's kind of, yeah, I think that's sort of like where I sit with it. So, I do think achieving something, is important to humans. I think, contributing, feeling validated, having a purpose where you are feeling like you are contributing to society, and above that, having something that makes you feel that you are, you know, that you're moving in a positive direction, I think is really important. And that doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be work. It doesn't have to be, a number of things. But I always used to say back in the day when things were going, I said, like, one of the greatest scoring systems ever invented was sort of like money and finance, and because it was like runs in cricket or goals in football, it was a scoring system, and you could see it going up, and it could validate you.
Yeah.
If you play cricket and you score lots of runs, you're validated as a good batsman. If you play football, you score lots of goals, you're validated as a good footballer. And in business, if you do business and you make lots of money, you're validated as a good businessman. And that validation is important. Now, I'm not saying it's important over everything, because quite clearly there are more important things in life than cricket and football and business and money. But I think it can contribute to a happy life.
Yeah, it's all about the balance, because also social life, you can't really neglect social life.
Yeah.
You can be rich and a loner, but you'll be depressed because you have no one to spend that money with.
Are you saying I'm rich and alone? Thanks, Daisy. Cheers. That's good to know.
No, but it's also not good to have loads of friends and be broke, right?
No, but do you know? So it is so true. So when I was at this point of feeling not particularly great about everything, I was very much like, look, I need to do something about this. I don't want to go down the path of taking medication, but I don't want to, I don't want to, find myself feeling this way forever. I need to do something to get out of it. And so at the time I had a business that was based on improving businesses, working with companies to help them. I think I mentioned, so I was fortunate enough to win a few sort of like big national awards for business leadership. And because of that, people would come to me and say, "Oh, what's the secret? What do you do? What's this?" And I was like, "Well, there is no secret. I just do this, this, and this." And in the end, I tried to map out how I would run a business, how everything was based on incremental gains, marginal goals, just improving everything a little bit. So you'd improve your sales function, you'd improve your marketing function, you'd improve your finance function, and all of these improvements would add up, as like Team Sky, sort of famously perfected with the cycling and things. And it obviously was long before then. When I was at university, I remember studying, marginal gains, continuous improvement, things like Kaizen, which was all about just, improve everything a little bit, and eventually you've improved everything a lot. And so, yeah, so I'd created this sort of like system to improve businesses and help businesses. And I was very much like, right, could I do this for myself? If I was Darren Ryemill, the businessman, going in to fix Darren Ryemill, the person, what would I do? And so I was like, right, well, I'd break my life down. I'd make sure that I could see, what components of my life there were. So as you mentioned, friendship, relationships, finances, work, a whole different section or a whole different selection of things that your life is based on. And I literally just scored it, and I was like, what can I do to improve it? And I'll give you a great example of just how, like, sometimes we can get really lost. So I think the first time I ever scored my life, okay, so I mapped it out and I scored my life. I think I scored it like 4.2 out of 10 once you aggregated all of the scores, which is pretty low. It's a pretty crap score, right? When you think that, I think the average person in the world scores himself between 7 and 8, typically. If you go up to it and say, how happy are you out of 10? Usually people say 7 is the answer. So I was sort of scoring myself like 4.2, if I remember rightly. And I was like, right, okay, so of this, what's going on? And from a fun and recreation perspective, I literally was doing nothing. You know, I was a member of a golf club, and I played golf once or twice in a year. Literally nothing. I've always loved football. You know, I always played football, always watched football. I haven't watched a football match live for over 2 years. You know, which is just ridiculous. So things that I did for fun, I wasn't doing, and then I'm thinking, well, why aren't I feeling like I'm having fun? Well, you're not doing fun things. It's like it's obvious, you know. But it wasn't until I stopped, took stock, and actually recognized it that that I was able to improve it. By doing that, literally by just doing that, by thinking, right, I'm going to go play golf. I'm going to go watch a football match. Next time I scored myself a month later or whatever, you know, and doing some small things like that, you know, I was up to 6 point something out of 10. And so, you know, and you know, I was feeling happier, and I was like on my journey back to being happier again. So which is a good thing.
It's so good. You basically just took a step back, paused, because your life was like going 100 miles an hour. You paused, self-reflected, dissected yourself essentially to just score yourself and see why you were happy. That's actually quite genius. It's like very logical in a way to look at it.
Well, yes and no. So it's so like I said, it sort of came about in like I needed to do something, and that was my solution. Turns out that I hadn't come up with a unique solution really at all. There's something called the wheel of life, which has been around forever. I mean, I think Buddha is credited with with creating a wheel of life. You know, so many life coaches will use it. You know, almost like every life coach on the planet knows of or uses some sort of version of the wheel of life. But I hadn't ever heard of it. So I went, and for me, it was just a logical step. So I always say to people, I literally reinvented the wheel. So that's how stupid I am. Right. So it's like, but no, you know, it was a good exercise. What was really good actually, and I think the best thing about it was I was there one day in my office doing my scoring of my life, and somebody came in, Amy, who was the CEO who run my businesses, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh well," and I explained what it was, kind of embarrassed that I was doing this weird thing or whatever. And she said, "Would you do that with me?" She said, "That sounds interesting. Would you do it with me?" So I did it with her, and she was like, "That's really good." And then she said, "Oh, would you do it with the other leadership team?" So I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And then they were like, "Can you do it with the office?" And so before long, we had like almost everybody in the business was being introduced to this concept. Somebody after one of the sort of like sessions I did on this, you could do this, came up to me, and she was like, "You should make this into an app. You know, this is something that I think should go outside of our business, and I think people would really benefit from this." So that's what we did. You know, I sort of then made an app out of it, and it's become a business in its own right. There's a business called Hapstar. It's sort of all about collecting data, helping businesses support their staff to be happier. And we all know that happy staff, firstly, it's just better. Right? It's better that people are happy. If you said, "Do you want happy staff or not?" I mean, no one goes, "No, I'd rather have the miserable ones, please." You know, so it's like everyone wants happy staff. But, you know, all the data, all the numbers, productivity, you know, retention, everything just soars, you know, when people consider themselves to be happy. And actually, you don't need to spend much money to make people happy. Once you know what it is, that the buttons you can press, like me going to play golf and watching football, some super easy fixes, you know. Again, I look back at my time, I think I scored my financial situation. I scored like maybe 2 or 3 out of 10. I mean, anyone who would have knew me at the time, if I'd have said that, would have been like, "What are you talking about? You know, how can you be thinking your financial situation is there? You know, given you know what my actual reality of financial situation was." But the thing was, I just didn't have a handle on it. So although it was very healthy, I didn't know it was very healthy. I didn't know, and it's that unknown that sometimes is the problem. So, and again with staff, you know, they might just not know something. As soon as you can go and help them with that information, like, you know, "Darren, it's okay, you're fine." So, "Oh, that's okay then." So I'm no longer a 2 or a 3, I'm a 7 because I feel fine. And it can be so easy, you know, to help people. And then ultimately, like I said, get better productivity, get better retention. But, you know, ultimately help people is the key starting point.
Yeah, because you were burnt out, right? So you helped yourself, and it was so cool how it's like you were manually doing it to other people as
Yeah.
well, and they said it was so cool and so helpful, and now it's just scaled up
Yeah, well,
to an app.
unfortunately, one of the quirks of me is that it's very difficult to tell me anything. You know, I'm open to information, but if somebody came and said you should do this, I would immediately reject it. I'd be like, this is crap. Don't want to know. What sort of rubbish is this? So often I have to go through a process myself
Hmm.
of like, I've got to come up with this. You know, I need to understand why everything is coming that way,
Hmm.
and so that I'm not coming in from a questioning perspective, you know, and trying to, you know, I can just get behind the concept straight away, you know. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably why I'm entrepreneurial and run my own businesses rather than work for people, because
Yeah.
you know, yeah, it's just I'm that way inclined.
I know you want to know the next bit, but just give me one moment. If you're not hiring right now, though, skip the next 60 seconds. This guy won't be offended. I've spent enough time in recruitment to know the pain points firsthand. The endless LinkedIn tabs, the where did I put that CV from last month moments, the awkward team meetings where everyone has a different idea of what we're hiring for. That's why when I first heard about Avery, I had that rare, finally, someone gets it feeling. What I appreciate the most, it actually connects all the places candidates already exist, pulling from LinkedIn, Indeed, plus digging through your existing database to find people you've already talked to. You know, the ones who slipped through the cracks when timing wasn't quite right. The real game changer for me was seeing actual market data before posting a job. Turns out my salary expectations were way off my last hire. Would have been nice to know that before spending weeks interviewing people I couldn't afford. Look, I'm not going to pretend hiring will ever be completely painless, but having everything in one place with real insights instead of guesswork, that's worth talking about. There's a link below for a free month if you're in the middle of hiring hell right now. If not, just file this away from when you inevitably are. Now, back to what we were discussing. So you've mentioned as well that happy employees, which I preach all the time, equals more productive, higher impact, more results at the company. It just makes sense. So I think an issue people have, particularly me, is if I tweaked it a bit and I focused more on relationships, on my partnership, on the social bit, I feel like then I'm not putting that time into something that has an ROI, like the business and social media, right? Which sounds really, it sounds really stupid, right? Because you want to kind of balance everything or put all your eggs in one basket, which is the business, which will make you money and make you successful, right? So I think that's the worry people have if they like, oh, maybe I'll just go on holiday, see my family and stuff like that. They'll enjoy that so much, relaxing, that they're just like, why am I working so hard?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
But look, but we're all different. You know,
Mm.
what makes me happy may not make you happy. You know, I spoke about golf and football, you know, but you know, maybe you're massively into those, maybe you're less into them. It doesn't matter, you know, sort of like, and you know, we're all wired in different ways. You know, where my stop is clearly significantly below where, you know, say Elon Musk's stop, or Donald Trump's stop, or Jeff Bezos' stop, or Bill Gates' stop. You know, like, these guys are, you know, they're phenomenally successful. You know, in their own rights. What you think of them, you know, is I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying they're the greatest people in the world or whatever, but they're very, very successful people. I couldn't take myself there for whatever reason, you know, and it actually doesn't matter, you know, whether you've got £1 billion or £1. That's not the definition of if you should be happy or not. It's not the definition of if you're a good person or not. You know, there's lots of people out there. You know, I've spoken to in my life and my journey. You know, I've spoken to lots of different people. I've spoken to monks who have literally nothing, who you know, who celebrate that having, or celebrate's the wrong word, but you know, like that's their basic ethos. That's everything they stand for. These people are fundamentally fulfilled and happy. You know, they don't have the latest car, they don't have the latest watch, they don't have the so look, we're all geared different ways, and it's okay to acknowledge that we're all different, you know. And where I think the difficulty comes in is where you get a misalignment. And often these days. And, you know, for me, happiness is on me. My happiness is on me, no one else. And I don't need anyone else to be telling me what makes me happy, or I'm not reliant on anyone else to tell me what makes me happy. Other people contribute massively to my happiness, like my children, my friends, my family, or whatever. They contribute massively, but they're not to fix my happiness. That's not their problem. I am the only one that can control what I think. They can't, and so I think lots of people seem to look outside for happiness, whether it's some sort of like material possession, or whether it's to another person, whether that be their partner. Oh, my boyfriend's terrible because he doesn't make me happy. Maybe you shouldn't be together. My employer's terrible because it doesn't make me happy. Maybe you shouldn't work in that job. Maybe you're not a good employee for that company. And I think this is very different, because you need to be in an environment where you are properly aligned, and if you are, then that's when, the magic can happen in terms of, you can be fully inspired and productive and motivated and all this. If you're fundamentally a bit off, look inside, look at yourself and think, look, what is it that I'm doing? And actually, is this the career I want, or the job I want, or the relationship I want, or, the business success I want, or the money what is it? And if you're honest with yourself, but as soon as you start thinking, well, when I get that, I'll be happy, never comes. It never comes.
Yeah, we always push the post a bit further, don't we? Because we get there and we're like, what's next?
Yeah.
And then we hit that and it's like, what's next? And if we don't hit that, we're fucked.
And modern society is also, it's impossible to go anywhere without seeing adverts or being told what you need to buy. It's like, you don't have this, you must be a terrible person. Or you don't have the brand new Tesla, what sort of person are you? Or you don't have, or whatever it is, whatever messages you're sort of seeing. So it is difficult. It is difficult to cut through all of the noise, and go inwards, which is why, I think it's important that people do take time to reflect, whether it be on their mental health. People know that if you see somebody who looks in great physical shape, they probably work out, they probably do something to assist with their physical health. Okay. Mental health. How many people can actually say, I do something to assist with my mental health? I do something that is like my mental health gym, my mental health workout. And I'm, whether that be bit of meditation, like, some of the smaller stuff just to find a bit of peace, whether that's actually some sort of proactive, I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. I will feel better if I know what I'm trying to achieve, and not just what everyone wants to hear or everyone puts on LinkedIn. I'm trying to achieve this. My why is this.
I wake up at 5 a.m.
Oh, please. It's like sort of like, it's just, but it's, it's just what actually is it? And if you want to achieve absolutely nothing, right? If what you want to achieve is literally nothing at all, embrace it. Just because I would be so happy on that beach doing sweet FA for the rest of my life. Go do that. Right? Don't pretend that you want to be this and this and this, and convince yourself that's what you want to do, and see yourself as a failure if you're not trying to do that. Likewise, if you want to go and have success, if you want to win the Champions League and and be a great footballer, you've probably got to go out and run. Probably got to learn to kick a football. You've probably got to do more and more training than anyone else. And if you want to be the best lawyer in the world, you probably need to read something about law, and probably read more about law than other people, and practice law more than other people. Or don't just go, I don't want to be the best lawyer. It's not a problem for me. I don't want to be the best lawyer. There you are. Darren Ryemill does not want to be the best lawyer in the world. I'm quite happy to never have a job as a lawyer and be crap at it. There you are. Cool. I'm not now putting undue pressure on myself, but recognise it. I would like to win the Champions League. That'd be quite cool. I might struggle to get in a team at 48. But
oh my gosh. No, I absolutely agree. The comparison culture is real. And I don't know as much for men, but for women, we've got like all the posters that are like, oh, take this pill and you'll get this thing, or like cosmetic surgery adverts and stuff. It's quite crazy. So it's also like physical appearance as well, you can't be happy with anymore. And I absolutely agree. I mean, I went through a journey as well last year where I went to Italy. I had a little realization moment, like, shit, do I even want to be in office work anymore? Like, I had this just light bulb. I was looking at the light bulb behind you and I was thinking about this, the light bulb moment, the aha moment, like, do I want to do this for another 10 years? Because I'm running up to 10 years, been doing recruitment. And I was like, do I really want to do that? And then happiness just kept coming up in my mind. And I was like, that's so dumb. Why do I keep thinking about happiness? Like, I'm fine. I'm in Italy working remote, earning X amount with my family. I'm good. And I just had that moment where it's like, maybe you're not.
But you know what? I think it's one of those things that if we had a wish for our children, right? If you say to anyone on the birth of their child, what do you hope for this child? What is your one wish? I think pretty much everyone would say, I want them to be happy. You know, I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I live in some sort of dream world, but I think pretty much everyone would say, I hope this baby will be happy, right? And yet, how much do we actually do to support and make sure they are happy? We do a lot to give them a head start in this or in this or in this or whatever, but fundamentally happy. And I'm not talking about we buy them sweets that makes them happy. We buy them ice cream. I do that with my kids all the time. It's a little
give them an iPad.
Yeah, exactly. I have some of this, kids. Go on, you know. But but the fundamental things that we know, so that, like you said, when they grow up to be a beautiful, sensational daughter who they're 16, 18, 21 years old, whatever they are, they don't feel the pressure of needing to look like whatever the latest model looks like, or go and get some sort of surgery to make them look like somebody else that is phenomenally unhappy. You know?
Yeah.
So I think as a society, and this is where, you know, we can't make people happy. And I do think happiness starts with yourself, and we should have that self-responsibility. But just to be kind and supportive and try and help people, you know, on that journey. I think it's so important.
I was just thinking, like, if I was a parent and I was listening to that, like the burden of like, oh, my child needs to be happy. Like, it sounds like pressure, like, 'cause they might not be happy themselves.
Yeah,
you know.
but you've got to start. But often people look back to this whole thing. I had completely missed the point of what I was doing in life. What was making me happy? You know, what were my fundamental sort of like drivers? And you know, I know people now talk about their why more than ever before, and I just don't believe half the stuff people say about their why is whatever or their purpose is whatever. You know, it's like everyone just because my why is my children. I got 5 kids. I love my kids. I can't tell you how much I love my kids. All right. Does that mean if you don't have children, you can't have a why? You know, it's like, this is, you know, I look on LinkedIn and everyone's like, this is my why. And it's like, well, okay, phenomenal. Well, and it probably genuinely is. But, you know, you look at the data on, you know, people achieving amazing, fantastic things. They're not all had a kid and is 10 years old and they've been driven, you know, they probably got started on this journey of whatever they were going to do long before, you know. So that I think your why and your drive can change over time. It's something that is in you, you know, there's something that just wants to propel you forward or not, you know. And again, it's back to that honesty, to truly be honest with yourself, you know, about what it is that you think sort of makes you happy.
That's the scary part. Do people want to be honest with themselves? See their demons?
Well, they don't, because, you know, we're all told that we need to be this or this or this or this. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not immune to any of this stuff, you know, just because I had a bad time a number of years ago and I come up with a bit of a solution for myself. You know, of course, you know, we all are subject to advertising pressure, peer pressure, every kind of like pressure that there is, you know. But it's just about once you have something that you know you are solid with, you know, at least you have a place you can return to, you know, and you are a bit confused about what's going on. You can be actually, you know, go back to this sort of spot. I'm, you know, this is who I am. This is what I want to be.
Yeah, you have to have that foundation really, really solid, because otherwise that's when you depend on your job, your spouse, your children, all the external things, how you look. Because if you don't trust yourself, confident in yourself, believe in yourself, you will always look for something else. And I always find that with success and happiness, both things, when we look at the happiest people like monks or Elon Musk or whoever, the most successful people financially, they've gone through hardships like quite early on in their lives in order to like think differently and think, no, I don't want to live like this. I want to completely do a 360 and change it.
Well, I think it's worth saying, you know, like when I speak to, or when I have spoke to monks, you know, they're not necessarily the happiest, and I'm pretty sure Elon Musk isn't the happiest. I mean, look at the guy. I mean, come on, he looks like he's got some issues, poor Elon, you know, in the nicest way. But like, and well, quite think he's got some well documented issues. You know, they've been out there in the press and stuff. So I think that we it's so easy to think they're happy. You know, I was saying about I want to win the Champions League. Is everyone who's won the Champions League happy? Is everyone who's had a #1 record happy? Is everyone who's been an actor in a film happy? These are arguably the least happy people in society, you know, because they've achieved something and they can't get there again, or they you know, it's gone or whatever. You know, these are often the least happiest. You know, the most beautiful people are often the people that don't feel the most beautiful, that are not eating and literally, you know, literally cutting themselves up to look different. You're like, what are you doing? You're the most beautiful person ever in the world. Everyone says you are. Yeah, I'm just gonna have this surgery and do this and this. You know, that's not true happiness. And we look at these people. They're happy. They're beautiful. They're rich. They're this. They're that. They're happy. No, they're not. You know, and you know, it's. You know, I wish they were. I really, you know, and I'm sure some of them are. I hope some of them are. But you know,
I think for us, the individuals, the normal society people, citizens, it's comforting to know that they're not happy. And I think when you get to that stage, like you said, they don't want to seem ungrateful if they've won the championship, if they've got a #1 album and stuff, even though it's a lot of stress that took them there, they're burnt out, you know, they fucking hate it because they're like, oh, how am I going to do this again, replicate it and be even better next year? They can't be ungrateful because then we don't sympathize with them. We just think like, oh, you're fucking rich, you're famous. Well, how can you be unhappy?
I mean, I watched a Robbie Williams documentary recently. You know, there's so many famous people that have had the same journey, and I'm absolutely not comparing my life to Robbie Williams quite clearly. But there were points in it when, you know, he was sort of saying that when he was at his peak, you know, when he was and the responsibility that he felt. You know, he had to go on stage. You know, I was again watching something about the Whitney Houston film before, and it's like tragic, you know. And everybody just needed her to get up there and sing, and you know, and if she didn't, they were going to go bust. And like Robbie said on his thing, he said, like, if I didn't do this show, we were all going out of business. Everyone was losing money. He said I couldn't do it. I was having like a mental breakdown or whatever. I had to get on the stage, and I mean, I did not have to get on a stage in front of 100,000 people, but I had a business with hundreds of people in it. And if they didn't get their wages paid, if I didn't do this, and I took it as a real serious responsibility. And, you know, and it really meant something to me. And that weighed heavy, you know. And again, you know, I'm not comparing myself. I watched a Boyzone thing recently, you know, documentary, saying the same. You know, when you look at these people thinking they should be at their happiest, they absolutely weren't at their happiest. You know, that you're looking at them thinking you've got everything.
Yeah,
they're there thinking they got nothing. So this is why it's so important that you can keep you can be reflective on things. You can think about what you have, and you can send yourself in the direction that you want to go in. And it doesn't mean you're always going to get everything you want. You know, you can't just write down, I'll be happy when I win an Oscar and have a #1 album and blah, blah. It's probably not going to happen, you know. And it doesn't happen for most people. But you can chase it. I mean, it's in that chase that I think you get the happiness. I'm moving in the right direction. My relationship with my wife is getting better. My relationship with my kids is amazing and getting better. My wealth is getting better. My career is going forward at a trajectory. And when you align it, it doesn't matter how much money Elon Musk has got, or how pretty Julia Roberts is, or whoever. You know, I'm not Julia Roberts. I'm never going to look like her. You know, I can't really let it bother me, can I? I have to get on with it. Like,
yeah. It's also like setting your standards. Just, you don't want to aim here, right? Like you said, Oscars, etc. Like, just having low standards and being present and appreciate what you already have as well.
Well, I think there's it's good to dream. It's good to have ambition. I think ambition is one of the best things in the human race. I love it, and I think all of us find it attractive. It's an attractive feature. I certainly do. I think it's a really, because it's good for us as a society. It's good for us as people because it improves us to have that. But it's about being the best you can be. I'm probably never going to win the 100 meters Olympic gold medal. Do you like how I said probably? I'm a 48-year-old, 48-year-old fat man who don't think could run 100 meters. Never mind win. But it doesn't stop me running 100 meters as fast as I possibly can, and that's where I need to sort of focus my attention. Not I'm never going to be as good as Usain Bolt. I may as well shoot myself in the head. It's like, cause what's the point in starting? So it's like, because it's a ridiculous starting point of comparison. The only person we can compare ourselves is us.
Yeah. Boom. Mic drop. Do you want to take the mic out? Drop it. Hey, I want to play a game as a final question because I think you covered everything in this.
A packet of cigarettes. I was like, all right, don't smoke, but go on.
Up for anything.
We're in Amsterdam.
Realistic happiness.
What's going on?
So you're going to pick your last question. Hopefully it's a good one.
This is a good one. Is there one you want? Go on. What concerns you most about your future?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, God. I don't know. Do you know what? I just want to, I definitely don't want to live forever, right? I don't think the world wants me to live forever, to be honest with you. But it's like, but what I would love is, so it concerns me, is I want to be able to see my kids sort of grow up and get to a point where they are happy, and I can go, look, they're happy. So I guess what would concern me is missing out on that as a thing. I want to see all 5 of my kids grow up to the amazing people they could be, and sort of prove me right with my whole, when I had them, I want them to be happy. And so, so there you are. I've reworked it into a positive. So that's so what concerns me is not seeing what actually inspires me. So,
and it wasn't tied to work or finance or success. It was.
Well, I don't think anything. I think very few things are. When you break it down, I think nothing is, and that's why if you take happy people, and you put happy people, and you ask them to do anything, whether it be work or play or relationships or whatever, they do better in it. Happy people do better in everything, and every statistic shows you this. Whether, like I said, work, play, love, life, friendships, whatever, happy people always do better. So aim to be happy.
I think we're going to end it there. That was the perfect ending. Darren, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and the realities of success and happiness.
Thank you. Cheers, Daisy.